Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about They Live and its 2021 Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray. And at the very end of this video, we will be doing our weekly digital code giveaway, and we will be doing our membership monthly giveaway. So if you are one of those people that wants to do that, make sure you stick around to the end of this video. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about John Carpenter's They Live. This was written and directed by him, and it was released in 1988. It stars Roddy Piper and Keith David, and it's following the story of Roddy Piper's character, who at the very beginning of this movie, he's just drifted in from Denver, Colorado, looking for some work. There's really not too much in Los Angeles as well, but he ends up lucking into a construction job, and that's where he meets Keith David. And he's got nowhere to live, so Keith David tells him there's a place that you can get some hot food, and you can get a warm bed to sleep in, take a shower, kick your feet up, relax a little bit. But unfortunately, there is no relaxing, because what Roddy Piper discovers is that there's these sunglasses that if you put them on, you can see what the world really is. And what the world really is in this movie has been taken over by aliens, and those aliens are the controlling class of the entire planet. And basically, that's the big message of this movie, is that the people who control this planet, they turn out to be aliens, which is really funny because it's playing into what a lot of people think about the world today. But at the time in 1988, it was commenting on Reaganomics. Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States, and John Carpenter was seeing a lot more consumerism and how people were really worried more about the stuff that they have than worrying about the planet itself. And a lot of that rings true today. I think at this point we're actually worse off than we were back in the 1980s, because this movie was commenting a lot about greed, how the middle class will never get ahead because the rich people will never let them get ahead. They'll always oppress them. The corporations will always oppress them. And when you put these sunglasses on now, you can see exactly what your real God is. At one point you look at money and it says this is your God, and that's 100% true here today in 2024. Corporations rule this world. That's why it says obey, watch TV, all stuff there to control us. And this movie is commenting on that, but wrapping it up in an alien invasion B-movie bow that only John Carpenter can make. And John Carpenter really wasn't appreciated back in the 1980s. It really didn't take until I would say like the late 90s, early 2000s for people to realize that John Carpenter is one of the greatest directors we ever have. And I think that he wasn't appreciated because he really operated in genre filmmaking. He made a lot of movies with aliens, a lot of sci-fi films. This is a sci-fi horror action film. So he loved genre films. He never really bent the knee to the studios, which makes all the sense in the world based on the themes of these movies. John Carpenter always liked to fight against authority and the controlling figures of the planet, and anyone who would try and control him. He always wanted to make the films he wanted to make, but they just didn't make that much money, and they weren't critical successes. It wasn't until they were reevaluated years and years later that people started to realize, man, John Carpenter not only had a lot to say, but he is a fantastic filmmaker. Don't forget all the great scores he's done for his own films. Many people might just remember him for Halloween or The Thing, but man, John Carpenter was just cranking out hit after hit after hit, at least for me. He very rarely missed. I don't even think he ever really fully missed. I would say Ghosts of Mars is probably the closest he came to making a bad movie, but I still like the score to that movie. And I really think what it is for me is that this is the kind of movie I really like. It's got deep themes, deep messages, but it's also so much fun. It's only 93 minutes long. The movie flies by. No one's taking themselves too seriously despite the subject matter being semi-serious. We get Roddy Piper. He's a professional wrestler, especially in the 1980s. This guy was on top of the world, fighting Hulk Hogan in the WWF.
No, sir.
And he's not really a great actor. He tried Hollywood just like Hollywood Hulk Hogan did. Other than this movie, I can't really think of any great acting performances from him. I'm a big Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, so when he pops up in there as the Maniac, I love that.
You remind me of my kids.
Oh, you got kids, Maniac?
Nah, not anymore.
What does that mean? Okay, all right.
We got a problem. I don't know what is he talking about with his kids?
But I don't ever think of Roddy Piper as a great actor, but his performance in here works perfectly for this film. Plus, he's working most of the time next to Keith David, who is always a fantastic and very underappreciated actor. And the two of them have one of the greatest fight scenes in film history. Based on the John Wayne fight scenes, that's what John Carpenter wanted to go for. Roddy Piper, professional wrestler. I could see him wanting to do this. And him and Keith David just have great chemistry in this scene. I mean, it gets ridiculous. real is how long it goes on, but it is just so entertaining. And it makes no sense because Keith David, he's just that stubborn that he won't put the sunglasses on. He'd rather get his ass kicked than finally put the sunglasses on just to reveal the truth. And I get what that is saying, is that many people don't want to see the truth. Even when it's facing them dead on, like you can reveal to them what the truth is, they still don't want to hear it. That's what they're trying to show you, is how stubborn people are. They would rather just be stuck in the system because that's the easier thing to do. Great messaging by John Carpenter in this movie. And again, just wrapping it up in that very, very, very over-the-top entertaining scene. And then this movie, of course, builds up to a great conclusion where we finally reveal what is the truth and what is really going on, and then we get to reveal the truth to the world. And then the closing line of this movie, or the closing moments of this movie, just works perfectly for what this film is. I'm not going to spoil it just in case people haven't seen They Live. I imagine to this point most people have caught up to it, but you never know. It's one of those films that is beloved now, but at the time, especially in the 1980s, it really wasn't. So maybe a lot of people haven't caught up to this film yet, or maybe you haven't seen it at this point or even heard of it. I'm not entirely sure. It is one of the cornerstones of the 1980s. The thing about it is, as far as John Carpenter films go, yes, it's a top 5 John Carpenter film, but John Carpenter has made some of my favorite films of all time. I still think The Thing is his masterpiece, but I mean, this is the guy who still gave us Halloween, Christine. I'm a big fan of In the Mouth of Madness. I think that movie's a very underappreciated masterpiece as well. And John Carpenter just has so many of these in his filmography. How many people love Big Trouble in Little China? But I think They Live kind of came out at a point where a lot of people didn't realize how good this movie is. And I just think that this movie has aged like a fine wine with everything it's trying to tell you. And then on top of that, you're going to be incredibly entertained throughout. But anyway, guys, let's talk about this 4K Blu-ray right now.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
So this 4K Blu-ray came out about 3 years ago from Scream Factory, and actually in 2023, about a year ago, it received a really nice Scream Factory Steelbook release that it was really hard for me not to double dip on, but I already had this 4K Blu-ray release, and this 4K Blu-ray is fantastic, even when you compare it to the Blu-ray that is packed in here. And Scream Factory had actually previously released this on Blu-ray back in 2012. It even has Steelbook release as well for that, which was pretty nice at the time. You know, they kind of had this theme going on where their Steelbooks really looked about the same. I actually have a couple of them. Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping is a really good one as well. That's in the same exact kind of artwork, and I really liked it when Scream Factory was doing these kind of Steelbook releases. We don't get them as much anymore as we used to, but we still get a few here and there, and they're always good artwork. Scream Factory really never holds back on the artwork. I think they do a fantastic job with that, while also maintaining their look, especially when it comes to their slipcovers. Their 4K slipcovers always have this silver bar across the top. I always appreciate that. You come inside, you pull this off. It's not a reversible slipcover, so you get the same artwork underneath, which makes sense. It is one of the most iconic movie posters of all time. I love this movie poster. This is one that I would probably want to have on my wall. I don't have it yet, but one day if I ever get more room in my house, or I get a bigger house, who the hell knows, I would love to get They Live's movie poster on the wall. It is fantastic, so I understand not wanting to change it. And then when you come inside, you get a Blu-ray and a 4K Blu-ray. All of your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray as usual, and there's a good amount of extras. Nothing crazy, and really nothing that's over the top or even really that long, but you do get a couple of interviews. A great one with John Carpenter. John Carpenter's always a great interview. Sometimes he seems like he doesn't want to be there, but even when he's like that, it's still fun to hear him talk. He's always very honest and very raw, and I always appreciate that. But he gives a good interview here. It's about 10 minutes long, nothing too long. Same thing with all the other interviews. They don't ever really go too long. There's a good 8-minute on-set making of thing where they probably showed it on TV back in the day to promote the film, so you don't really get a good looking back making of documentary, but you do get at least something on here. I would have really liked them to actually add a brand new making of, looking back documentary, looking at the importance of They Live and how it resonates with our modern world. Maybe one day somebody will make a documentary showing the importance of They Live. I'm not entirely sure. This movie wrapped up in that B-movie bow. You don't really know how many people appreciate this movie for what it is. So one day maybe we'll get a really good documentary and we'll get a re-release of this, but you really don't need to upgrade too much because the visuals on this are just stunning. You get Dolby Vision and HDR10. I mean, I was having a hard time really finding a flaw with the 4K Blu-ray, even when you compare it to the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray that's packed in here is really good. That just goes to show you that the scan itself and the source material are just in great shape. The Blu-ray itself maintained those full colors. The only thing is when you go to the 4K Blu-ray, you're going to have HDR10 and Dolby Vision, and that's going to brighten things up. And then, of course, you're increasing the resolution. And, the skin's going to look a little bit more natural. Everything's just going to look a little bit more realistic. In the early scenes of this movie, there's a couple dark scenes where the cops are coming on and they're throwing flares on the ground, which I never understood that. I always wondered if that was just done for this movie, if that's what SWAT teams really did. They're throwing flares on the ground, so everything's kind of kind of like lit up in red. And on the 4K, that's just handling that a lot better than the Blu-ray. You know, it's getting the deep blacks while still maintaining the color and the brightness from these flares. And I think the 4K just handles that better, but the Blu-ray still handles it pretty well. So when you compare the two, it's not that big of a jump to 4K Blu-ray. But again, the movie itself, it looks great. It was shot with animoscope, which means that the movie actually looks bigger than it really is, which is fantastic because this movie does look like a more expensive movie than $3 million. It does not look like a $3 million film. So it was just shot perfectly, and that just helps to add to the beautiful looking 4K Blu-ray. So the visuals, even 3 years later, are still up there with some of the best visuals that you were going to see, especially for a 1980s film. Everything is just maintained. Now, They Live is actually not the most colorful movie as you might think it is. We're dealing with aliens, but actually this movie is pretty flatly colored. It looks very realistic. We see a lot of landscapes. You know, it's not the most colorful movie, and I appreciate that about it. It's not going for that over-the-top 80s flair, even though I love that over-the-top 80s flair. I just think that John Carpenter was trying to get a realistic look to it, and I think he nailed that, and I think the 4K Blu-ray is just going to help that shine. Now, the audio, you get a really, really good Dolby Atmos track in here. Not the greatest Dolby Atmos track I've ever heard, but a really good one. This movie's got a great score to it. It's got great sound effects, especially that fight scene where the sound effects of the punches and kicks are just over the top because that's what they were going for. Sounds great. You don't really have any issues. You could set the volume at whatever you want. You know, you'll hear some stuff coming from different channels, which is really good. They were making good use of the speakers, good amount of bass. I don't really have too many complaints with this other than the fact it just wasn't something that stood out to me. It was just a very good Dolby Atmos track, but it never got to the levels of greatness that I would hope it would. But you know what? For a movie like this from 1988, it's understandable, and I really do think they did a good job mixing it. And you know what? It's definitely the best track that's available to you right now. And overall, I think Scream Factory gave us a great release with They Live. I can't imagine this film ever looking any better than it does. You know, maybe there could be some improvements with the audio and the extras, but the packaging is fantastic. I would really love to get that They Live 4K Blu-ray steelbook, but unfortunately, it doesn't make sense financially for me to upgrade to that steelbook, even though I love it. But I'm just going to still be getting the same discs that I have right now, so there really isn't too much of a reason for that. But still, if you get the standard edition with the slipcover, it's still really nice. So how would I rate this 4K Blu-ray at a score of 1 to 10? I would give They Live's 4K Blu-ray a really, really solid 9 out of 10. And guys, like I said, it's Friday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video we do here on Friday, I'm going to ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you got to do is answer one in the comment section below. As long as you do that, you come back to Monday's video, I put your name on a magic wheel, we spin that bad boy 2 times, and the 2 names it lands on, they have their choice, the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And we're talking John Carpenter, and that means I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite John Carpenter movie? And then on top of that, this is a sci-fi horror film. I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite sci-fi horror film? And you only got to answer one of those questions, so if you don't want to answer the other one, don't worry about it. If you want to answer them both, I would really appreciate that. Just want to talk movies with you guys in the comment section. But for our January monthly membership giveaway, you guys will have your choice of 3 films, either Waterworld from Arrow Video on 4K Blu-ray, Thor Love and Thunder with this 4K Steelbook, or The Lost Boys on 4K Blu-ray. It'll be your choice. So I have our 5 channel members on a magic wheel. Let's spin that bad boy and see who our lucky winner is.
Taking the elevator, going up, got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm in love with the good life, can't give it up, make it to the top, keep climbing, I wanna live it up.
All right, congratulations, Jason Martin. Thank you so much, buddy, for supporting the channel, and thank you everybody who supports the channel. We really appreciate it. Jason, you know what to do, man. You can either reach out to me at letstalkentmt@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, the artist formerly known as Twitter. DM me there. Let me know where to send it, but you know what to do, buddy, and I really appreciate that. And everybody else, if you can't support the channel financially, don't worry about it. We just appreciate you checking out the video, and the best way to support us is by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, sharing the video, turning notifications on, or you can become a channel membership like John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, Mr. Smelly Potato, or even become a channel director like Frank's Media and Reviews, who has a great YouTube channel you guys should check out as well. And we may adjust the channel memberships in the near future. I think YouTube makes you wait 6 months, though, from the initial time you do channel memberships, but I do want to adjust the prices, try and maybe lower the price of the director's tier, maybe add a 4th tier, I was talking to somebody this morning about that. We'll probably adjust it in the near future, and we'll let you guys know what that is as we go forward. And don't forget, guys, tonight we are going to be watching Groundhog Day here on the channel at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to join in with that, we'll be checking out this movie because you know what it is? It's February 2nd, and that means it's Groundhog Day. So anyway, guys, we'll be seeing you around. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to get out on those streets and tell your friends about us, and then just enjoy the rest of your day.